Tobago, Trinidad Tobago. Good morning. I am Watson Solomon Duke, and this morning I want to make a comment in particular on the appointment of the president. One thing we are aware of is that this year, in the month of January, a president should be elected or would be elected by the Electoral College. We believe that the Electoral College is some sophisticated college that deals with neutrality, that is not polarized, and has the interests of Trinidad and Tobago at heart. That should be the case, but it is not. The Electoral College is made up of politicians on the UNC side and the PNM side. And exactly what we did not want to happen is happening at this time, where both groups within the parliament, the PNM and the opposition, they are playing political games with the lives of persons in this country upon the appointment of, or the selection and appointment of the president. So we have in both cases persons who are shaded as politicians. And I think that's a very bad time to shade the president with the shade of a political brush. So the PNM would have recommended Christine Kangaloo. Obviously, she has been dubbed a PNM by many, and that's just the public views. The UNC has selected Israel Khan, and he has been dubbed a UNC by the public views. The public views are important because the public is the public. The public is the guardian or the custodian of our democracy at the end of the day. When a person believes that his democratic right or democratic will is no longer honored, he wants to revolt. And I'm seeing some type of public uproar taking place in the upcoming months if the politicians of this country do not put the country first. This election of the president, to me, as a political leader of the Progressive Democratic Patriots, is a political weapon in the hands of whosoever does the appointment or the selection and the appointment. In this case, it is the government. Why I see a weapon? Simply put, the Office of the President website lists the duties and responsibilities of the president. There are many, among which are very powerful duties. You can imagine someone who is a party backbencher, someone who is a party member, who is paying obeisance and allegiance to the Balizé or the Rising Sun. You could imagine that person sitting as the president. Let me tell you, the president is the head of state. One. So what would other countries view us as? Our president should not be a politician. Generally, our president should really be a neutral person, because the president is the person to which the prime minister must report. Apart from his cabinet, he must report with the president. And if the president requires any information whatsoever, he can ask the prime minister, and the prime minister is duty bound to provide such information. If you have someone in cahoots with the prime minister, then that will be a cover-up. If you have someone who's opposed to the prime minister, then that could be a disaster. So we do not want a president who is opposed to the prime minister. We don't want a president who is in the prime minister's back pocket. We want a president who understands the role of president. Again, if you want to find the role of the president, go to the Office of the President website. So the president is the head of state, Trinidad and Tobago. The president is also has executive authority, is vested in the president of Trinidad and Tobago. So when you talk about Trinidad and Tobago, the executive authority is vested in the president. The president is also the custodian of all state lands of Trinidad and Tobago are vested in the president, and as such is responsible for leases, etc. after consultation with the Solicitor General. The president appoints the prime minister, that's the party with the most seats after the election, appoints the prime minister, and also appoints the opposition leader. Now let's say we have an election, and of the 41 seats, we have a situation where 3 political parties have 10 seats and 1 party has 1 seat. Now, the president could decide, if no one is budging, the person with the 1 seat is not budging. Or let's say, make it simple. Let's say we have 20 seats for PNM, 20 seats for UNC, and 1 person has 1 seat. Let's say that. Then the president will have to decide who will continue into office or who will be in office until the election resolves itself. The president has to decide that. The president plays an important role. In other words, in where the law is silent and the president has the role to decide, the president can decide, do we want a PNM person deciding that for a PNM party, or do we want a UNC person deciding that for a PNM party? No, both situations are not good. And so I believe the time has come for us to seek constitutional reform. The government has been seeking the support of the opposition on many issues that requires constitutional reform. Many issues. And the opposition has been giving the government their support. I want to see on that particular issue, the PDP is saying on that particular issue, we need urgent constitutional reform. We need it to ensure that our president, first of all, is elected not just by the politicians, but maybe by the people. I want to say we must elect the president by the will of the people. Now that may create another case where everybody thinks that they could be a president, and so therefore we have 100 persons vying for presidency, and what we have is open warfare. That is not the ideal case. But somehow we have to remove it from just the opposition and the executive of the government deciding on that, because it could come down to politics. Who has their man inside to do their bidding? As I said, the role of the president is very important. The president also assent to bills after they are passed, proclaim a state of emergency. You can imagine the government decide that it wants to have enforced a state of emergency, and after meeting with the president, they say, look, I want you to have a state of emergency. And the president said, no, I'm not doing that. Then what becomes of the law? It falls flat. You can imagine the president saying no to a bill after it was passed by the Senate, after it was passed by the House of Representatives and the Senate in that order. No, it's chaos. Governance becomes laughable, becomes chaotic. And so we do not want someone to oppose the sitting government. We do not want someone in cahoots with the sitting government. What Trinidad and Tobago wants is someone who is independent, but not independent to the point where it refuses to listen to the government and the opposition, but someone who will keep the prime minister and keep the opposition leader in check. I think the president, as a non-executive president, should take up that role. Someone to keep them in check, and to keep them in check by ensuring they're not taking any side. But if something is fair, you therefore get into it. For example, if a commission of inquiry is required, the president shouldn't have to wait until the prime minister writes and say, all right, inquire into that. The president should be able on his or her own to get a commission of inquiry going. The president should really and truly appoint his or her own boards, because our boards that the president appoints. I will get into all of those boards. Check it out on the website. But the president must be able to act, and if the president in acting recognize that they have been given bad advice by the prime minister, they must be able to say so and have the prime minister at least sort it out. So the president is supposed to be a check and balance in this whole governance of Trinidad and Tobago. We do not want a rubber stamp. And I'm saying this now because while I have spoken already and several persons have spoken already, I'm saying nothing new here. I believe that given that the appointment of the president is closer now than before, we have to keep this going. We must not be distracted by the little news that the government is trying to make news. We must keep this on the front burner, and we must keep protesting insofar as our voices are concerned. Take to social media, and the media must help us with this also too, to allow both the PDP and the UNC to understand when coming to this issue, there must be no politics. I think Israel Khan is as bad as Christine Kangaloo, and Christine Kangaloo is as bad as Israel Khan. It's just different shades. One is PNM, one is UNC. One is red, one is yellow. Palizé, Rising Sun. Let's end the politics, please. This is my contribution to the people. I love all the real bad, right?